here I stand prepared to create my tier list on the tanks in Battlefield 5, being entirely prepared, and yet I still lack a critical element, something likely linked to this loop of inner monologue. Simply put,
Matteo.
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to go through with it.
Remember who you are.
Man, if Mem was still here in this world of Battlefield 5, he would know exactly what to do.
Hey, dumbass!
It's as if I could still hear his voice.
I know what you need to start the video. Hey, look at me, you filthy KP31 user. Look at me!
Huh?
Just put on the coat. Huh? It'll reinforce your weak mind.
Holy shit. Welcome, viewers, goons, and fellow Battlefield associates. My name is Matteo, and the addition of this lab coat has completely destroyed fashion files and all thoughts of crippling self-doubt. Today, we will be covering the tanks in Battlefield 5 in its entirety, ranking each item in its respective place on the standardized tier list, ranging from F, being the worst, and S, being the best. To rationalize my position on each pungent pillbox, I will divulge into an appropriate amount of lore and nerd shit to contextualize my stance on the matter.
Let's do this.
Churchill Mk VII heavy tank. A tank forming the backbone for the British forces, she's seen every theater from Africa to the very end of the war. Fitted with a quick-fire 75mm gun, the historical outsourcing for this main cannon was achieved through recycling the 57mm Ordnance quick-fire 6-pounder by boring out the larger 75mm desired diameter. Now, with my little nerd rant out of the way, let's speak practically through the gameplay. Although slow in its movement, the Churchill makes up for this with its large health pool, 360-degree turret access, and barrel damage, hitting hard with a respectfully large splash damage. Picking the skill tree with the faster turret speed and anti-tank rounds, the shell drop can be daunting, however it really doesn't bother me. I honestly think this is a pretty well-rounded tank, albeit you will need to apply a slow and methodical approach to conflicts on the battlefield if you want absolute success. Alternatively, there is a flamethrowing requisition variant that you can call in as the squad leader. However, it should be noted that the Churchill Crocodile flamethrower is stationed for the passenger gunner, making it very awkward to use if you have no friends. Another thing of note is the trailer, which often gets in your way while trying to traverse the local topography. And if you strap an absurd amount of explosives below the wheelbase, you get suplexed by the towed apparatus. Pending further testing, I believe that with more explosives, you could potentially achieve flights similar to a Ninja Star. This defines the very standard of a pretty good tank. Easy A tier. Churchill Gun Carrier heavy tank.
Jonesy, the British engineers just called and you won't believe this.
Huh?
They took the chassis from the Churchill and made a new prototype with it. Let's take a look. Oh my, a drivable brick.
This prototype big boy plays the role of a turtle with a repurposed 76mm 20 CWT anti-aircraft gun originating from the First World War. Now, after countless testing and funky modifications, the Churchill Gun Carrier never actually saw active duty. But obviously, that doesn't stop it from existing in this game. I won't lie, this tank destroyer is really slow, so it is best when positioned at the backlines for its limited gun movement. Contrary to what I originally thought, this tank is actually viable in the hands of the determined. You see, it may be a slow-moving turtle with an antiquated anti-aircraft gun, but that old girl is big, and those shells do a lot of splash damage, making her perfect for clearing out objectives from a distance. However, in turn, makes you a backline bitch, which is mega boring. Side note, it is the easiest tank to kill with a repair tool. Another side note, the overgrown turret and body dressings change the foliage depending on the tank paint job. Stylish points there, but that's still not enough to save it from D tier. Too slow and boring for my liking. Tiger I heavy tank. There is a reason why the Tiger I has a reputation as one of the greatest tanks of all time. With frontal armor reaching up to 102mm and a gun with an inner diameter of 88mm, this tank was unmatched. My personal preference on the skill tree includes the Heat T rounds, which are lethal to any vehicles, and Zimmerite, which voids the magnetic abilities of all sticky grenades and dynamite-like explosives. The only setback of this tank is its mediocre movement speed and slow turret rotation. But you see, its performance and beauty doesn't come for free, making me say, you do you, girl. Release your inner tiger. What the fuck? Why did I write that? Whatever, I'm just gonna pretend I wasn't drunk when I wrote that. Legend has it that it takes around 7 Shermans to take out 1 Tiger, 6 as martyrs for the distraction, and 1 to make a mad dash for the cheeky flanking maneuver, where the armor is weakest and the engine is exposed. But, from my personal experience in the game, it's either 3 speedy and coordinated Greyhounds, or an objective full of tank-thirsty assault classes. But think about it, if you eliminate any advancing threats before they have the opportunity to kill you, then they are not threats. This is a skill issue. S tier. This thing has a strong reputation for a reason, man. Scheiße! Looks like this Tiger tanker let a skilled driver slip right past him. But what's he driving? Holy shit, it's the M4 Sherman tank. A tank passed into American legend because of its logistical superiority and numerous wacky variants. Fitted with a 75mm cannon, greatly outmatched by the majority of German armor. But the Sherman's hidden strength was its sheer numbers and surprisingly reliable wartime part support, meaning replacement engines were easier to find due to the common platform choices such as the Detroit Diesels and Ford V8s. However, the first Sherman variant was powered by a Wright R975 Whirlwind, which might not sound that strange at first. However, let me assure you that once I explain that the conventional application for this radial, meaning reciprocating type internal combustion engine configuration in which the cylinders radiate outward from a central crankcase like the spokes of a wheel, radial engines are not to be confused with either two types of rotary engines. Fuck off, Mazda boys. I'm not talking about your stupid spinning Dorito. In simple terms, for some reason they thought it would be a good idea to put an air-cooled aircraft engine into a tank, which is something I can't wrap my head around. Oh, never mind. They just mounted a really big fan on the front of the engine to force it out the back, basically turning the back end of the tank into an industrial-sized hairdryer. But thankfully, said aircraft engine was replaced by the previously mentioned Detroit Diesels and Ford V8s from the M4A2 to M4A6 variants. Throughout the Second World War, the Sherman tank platform was subject to many much-needed modifications to make it stronger, some of which including out-of-pocket abominations commonly referred to as Hobbart's Funnies. Few had niche applications. Some were extremely effective, others were purely psychotic. But I digress. In this game, there are 3 Sherman variants of choice, excluding the vanilla setup, the first 2 of which we will group into this tier, and later on we will be touching on the T-34 Calliope variant, as it is acquired a different way and it easily earns its own seat at the table. On the left we have the Sherman Crocodile with a 105mm howitzer, conventionally an artillery gun, and flamethrower armament, replacing the secondary machine gun that normally occupies this slot, immediately making this Crocodile better than the Churchill variant because you don't need friends or incredible patience to use it. Now, this thing identifies as an absolute unit. However, as far as driving your fat ass between objectives and ducking incoming fire, it maneuvers about as fast as your average grandma scooter. And that gun might be big and have great splash damage, but the drop off from the rounds paired with the slow reload makes the experience feel more like Granny throwing a bowling ball into the outfield. If that were actually possible, because you are very weak and human-sized. Anyways, the shell drop and arc required to use this thing can prove to be very difficult to work with. But wait a minute, used in conjunction with the flamethrower in tight spaces or short distance conflicts, you have a success story almost as good as Mom's apple pie. It's spicy and very scary. Remember kids, war crimes are cool if the enemy crashes your beach party. Is lighting people on fire a war crime? I'm gonna go with probably not, but it definitely seems very uncivilized. Throw this variant in the caves of Iwo Jima or any other close-range engagement with a tank medic and he is unstoppable. That being said, with any long-range engagements, you're easy prey, which is why I have a severe bias to the branch path on the right. The Tank Hunter variant is kitted out with a faster engine, improved 76mm barrel, and APCR rounds for heavy armor. You become the speedy dispenser of anti-armor liberty. The philosophy is simple. Load APCR rounds when you see a tank, and that should bring you success in any 1v1, just don't miss. Angle your tank and bait out the enemy's main cannon fire and swing your cover while he's reloading. Simple enough, right? Yeah, well this is a tier list, not a tank operation guide. But if you guys want that, let me know. Depending on your map or mood, both variants are a blast to play, and once you've completely upgraded the specializations tree, you can simply reset your chosen route to the occasion. I give the Sherman tank S tier. This old girl does everything while flexing American patriotism. Valentine Mark VIII medium tank. This iron donkey is not for fighting other tanks. It is for deterring troop transports and infantry, and also planes if you're good enough. I won't lie, this tank will probably only survive 2 average shots from a Tiger. I mean, probably even just 1 if it hits the right place. And besides a set of qualities you'd probably expect from a medium class tank, there isn't anything special about it, unless you want to run landmine clearing charges, which you'd think would be fun, but they actually just suck. I personally don't think this thing is worth a tank spawn ticket, therefore I give it F tier. Go ahead, fight about it in the comments. This thing is as mediocre as they come. Valentine Archer. This tank left such an impression on me that I almost forgot to add it to the tier list, probably related to the rage associated with the Valentine chassis. fun fact about that, the Valentine anti-tank gun is actually facing backwards from where the turret normally would be, which is all I have to say besides the thing has a quick fire 17 pounder in it, which is prime tank killing caliber for the Allies. But it was also in the British Sherman Firefly. Instead we get this thing in the game with limited gun movement, an easier to spot body profile, and a trapdoor gunner. Well actually that's kinda unique. Now, I suppose I can understand the choice here due to the classes of tanks, and the Firefly actually would be just too good. However, my hate for the Valentine platform is growing ever stronger with the more variants I have to cover with it in it. So, you're insane if you think this stupid looking chassis is gonna get anything more than a E tier. I hate this thing. I detest it with my very being. You know, it'd be really funny if they made a holiday about this tank just to— oh my! Panzer IV, medium tank. Being the second most produced tank for the German army, this platform fought long and hard, with the main chassis being the founding platform for other tanks, such as the Stug, Flakpanzer, Sturmpanzer, and Jagdpanzer. Starting off at the bottom of the skill tree, I show no appreciation for this muffler-headed edition of the 4th German tank. But given the correct skill tree, this puppy is capable of a glow up on par with Pinocchio after he gained sentience. That's right, both of their noses grew. The Panzer's nose, an inner diameter of 75mm, and Pinocchio, well, I have no idea, and I sure as hell don't care. Throw those special armor-piercing rounds in that updated snoot, and we have a high-value Sigma medium-sized tank. Truly, a well-rounded tank for infantry engagements as well as tank-on-tank. A tier. Help me, step tank. I am Stug. Sturmgeschutz IV. With its body stitched together with the chassis of a Panzer IV and mounted with the Kampfwagen Canon 75mm bunker-busting death pipe, the tanks fear the skillful Stug driver. Several well-placed AP rounds will remove any thoughts of continued existence. It was the solution to anti-tank, anti-everything, as long as it's facing in front of it, but that doesn't make it helpless. One of the unique perks this tank sports is a remote passenger top gun with 360-degree movement that can delete any sneaky assault attacks without the threat of being killed. Granted that they aren't a testosterone-boosted assault class driving a Willys Jeep strapped to the teeth with dynamite. Another greatly overlooked feature of this tank is its much lower body profile, making it harder to hit overall and potentially see. With a mid to back lines positioning, this low rider will likely live long enough to make many gas station runs to resupply its main armaments. A tier, the most versatile tank hunter in the game. Will you be my Valentine? Hell no! Valentine, anti-aircraft Mark I. As the name would hint, this thing is really only good for one thing. And it only has one thing to do that one thing that shoots one things at a time, unless there are three things. Are you keeping up? Well, let me break it down for you. This tank is a moving anti-aircraft gun, and strategically they will give you the upper hand on most planes, especially since they cannot be anticipated to be in a consistent location like stagnant AA placements, which, as a self-proclaimed ace, is a very common strategy for snuffing out resistance from ground targets. But I digress. As the Valentine AA can move around and hide from incoming strafing runs, this acts as a hard counter to any other self-proclaimed aces. Personally for myself, I prefer the single gun for hunting airplanes, as it comes with a special industrial grade version of big buckshot. Excellent for repelling infantry, purely for the consistency and damage and lower rate of overheating. However, the triple barrel ain't bad either, so as long as you use it like a machine gun,
It's a machine gun! Machine gun!
you'll be good, as I've found that it is quite effective at hunting and suppressing infantry. Like seriously, look at how intimidating it is to be on the receiving end of this. For, if by some miracle you survive the first blast, the shock from the ground and the camera's POV will blow you over to the next map in the rotation. B tier, effective against everything except another tank. Flakpanzer IV, anti-aircraft. Nicknamed the Wirbelwind, as the name suggests, it wins Wirbels, or Vins Verbals? I don't know, I'm not German. Much like the previous entry, this tank also hunts planes. That's right, planes. A kill-frenzied pilot flying assault-powered bird. They be farming souls harder than the Ashen one in Anne Orlando. When it comes down to the best AA versus the best pilot, the pilot will always win because the AA gun remains stationary while the pilot can be anywhere, anytime, and kill you in over 700 ways, and that's just with my bare hands. Put tracks on that AA gun, and you'll be farming sweaty pilot tears. Oh, how the tables have turned. And the winds have warbled, because now they can't keep tabs on a stagnant object. Anyways, same story as the Valentine AA, except it looks extra cool or goofy. depending on who you ask. Now, contrary to what I said for the Valentine AA, I actually like the default multiple guns over the single armament. It just feels right. And it also has incendiary rounds that go alongside of it. And you know I like to inflict as much suffering as possible on those rival sweaty pilots. A tier. It doesn't have the V word in its name. Staghound T17E1 light tank. This speedy boy is one of the fastest tanks in the game, being able to run from its past mistakes and also into some future ones. Mounted with 4 rockets above the turret and a go-getter attitude, you'll need a desire for the never-ending flank if you want to succeed.
Gotta get quiet.
Standing in one place is your greatest adversary, next to landmines. Bearing armaments that can melt a heavy tank in mere seconds in the right hands, just dump all 4 rockets into the enemy engine bay and do laps around them to assert your dominance. It usually works, as most turrets will have trouble catching up to you. There is big potential to be very annoying, and I originally wanted to shame it, but the truth is, with its low health and large target area, it makes the thing very balanced. B tier. Panzer 38T light tank. You can call him Mr. T, or Mr. Seshish, as that's what the T actually stands for. Seshish being the Czechoslovakian company that developed this little dude back in the 30s. Following the annex of Czechoslovakia in 1938, Mr. T was shanghaied into the ranks of the German panzer divisions and served to the very end of the war and even after, with its chassis being integrated with a comically large anti-tank gun redesignated as the Martyr III. Upon first glance, this small boy seems pretty unassuming. Perhaps you might think he's simply an early prototype Panzer that never made it, but that is where I take great pride in proving you wrong. You see, being surprisingly fast, this little dude can ambush any tank with a higher turret profile, the Staghound, leaving him helpless to an onslaught of mines and chain reactions. Instead of developing little tank syndrome, this mechanical menace stood up and turned his supposed weakness into a strength, taking flight with assistance of a mentally unstable squad on devastation. But that's not all. I saved the best feature for last. You see, having the body profile that the Panzer 38T has, it gets a VIP pass to places that no tank should be able to go, like this, and this, and this, causing chaos and mayhem. Like, just look at this objective. Would you expect a tank to be able to get up there?
I landed on him!
Well, neither did this guy. This is easily the best tank in the game, as its small size makes its logistical prowess unmatched, and I proudly call it my favorite. Did I also mention that it gets completely hidden when it deploys smoke too? With speed and small target area, it makes it very troublesome for assault gankers to counter what they can't even see, till, you know, they either get run over or shot. S tier. Good things come in small packages. Type 97, medium tank. Being the staple of Japanese tanks throughout the Second World War, it followed a development trend very common among all Japanese war machines. At the beginning, it was pretty good, but it never got replaced, and it didn't get better upgrades fast enough, making it nothing more than an infantry support vehicle, which is what it was designed for. But unlike the Russians and Chinese at the start of the war, the Imperial Japanese were now at war with the United States of America, who actually had tanks of their own, and their tanks were in fact better, making Type 97 nothing short of the no-name brand of a Sherman tank, but worse. See all those rivets in the turret? Yeah, that's basically shrapnel to kill the crew inside when it gets hit. In the game, it has several options on the skill tree, on the left being a secondary seat cannon, which is quite fun for the passenger princess, and a 120mm howitzer. What? Isn't a howitzer an American shell? Wait, what gun is this? Oh, nobody knows. Cool. Probably has something to do with the fact that Japan and America were buddies before, you know, they crashed their beach party. And on the right side of the skill tree, we have a heavy-hitting Type 5 75mm anti-tank gun. A heavy-hitting prototype turret that barely made it past the prototype phase, and only existed in the Type 4 Cheeto.
I come.
In conclusion, this tank is mid and gives me a headache to think about. It only exists to serve as opposition to the American counterpart, and although it holds its ground respectably, it's nothing special. Glazing over the high damage of the Type 5 turret, which is very effective, I don't want to count that because the stupid thing never saw an actual battle in the real world. Not bad, but not better than the Sherman in my eyes. B tier. Japan never learned to make tanks better than America. LVT AM-Tank platform. The original pre-war roots of this landing vehicle, which is track, sprouted with the vision of a civilian rescue vehicle called the Alligator for extraction from swampy areas. But when Uncle Sam got his hands on it, he eventually armored it up and put a turret, upgrading its status to floating tank. As for the gameplay, you start out with a 37mm pea shooter that's best suited for farming infantry kills. And throughout long-term skill route progression on the tree, I'd say all paths are fine except the anti-aircraft route, as compared to the other AA guns, your range is significantly limited. And now as a self-proclaimed ace, I have traced your IP and am at your door with a rain of heavy rockets. I would rather hunt planes by putting the AA perk on an MG42, or just straight up using a bazooka, or I don't know, using the main gun that's already on the tank by default. Anything, just as long as it isn't the twin machine guns. The AA gun route is poop, and it makes you really easy to spot from the sky. Don't use it, just get good. That's my life advice for the day. Oh yeah, I almost forgot about the most important trait for this thing. This tank is also a boat, and boats can be used for repositioning and tactical sightlines. Very handy. Boat tier. Call me Amphibious Light Tank. This tank, I kid you not, is damn near identical to the LVT AM-Tank platform, besides the engine upgrade and some other small things. Even the shell diameter is the same size as an LVT. So, with near identical traits comes near identical advice. I'm not into semantics today. Anti-aircraft gun bad, boat cool, get good. You see, even outside of the game's design biased, with balance and TTK, there's a pattern here, and it's plagiarism. Come on, Japan, stop copying America's homework. D tier. Japan has not reached its glow-up phase of making everything better than every other country. M8 Greyhound Light Tank. Since first glance, I like this tank. To me, it felt like driving a 6-wheeled Honda Civic with a small cannon bubbled through the sunroof. And do any research on this thing and you'll realize that's exactly what it is. Let me just say, a danger banger on the 6-banger isn't a bad thing if the enemy is just as heavily at risk as you are. Not really sure what that means, but I wrote it a while back and I think it's kind of funny, so I'm gonna keep it in. Alone, these little bastards are good for nothing other than home wrecking, picking off infantry in hit and runs and drive-by shootings, which I won't sell short because with an armored cab, this is actually a really viable strategy. But together in a group, they can take down a tiger just like a pack of wolves hunts a moose. I like hunting tanks, but none of my friends play this game with me anymore, so B tier. I can literally get one-shotted by a tiger. Sonderkraftfahrzeug 234 Puma Light Tank. Planned as the Germany's new armored scout car for the war in Africa, the development delay with the Tatra 103 V12 diesel-powered and air-cooled engine made the production release miss the conflict altogether. However, in the European theater, it saw extensive use and success. With the speed of an actual Puma and the potential to wield a 75mm cannon of respectable size and armor-piercing rounds, going for a rip in this 8-wheeled all-wheel drive trailblazer is a real treat. Any skilled tanker could probably outmatch stagnant Sherman. Road killing is as much of a viable strategy as using the shooty thing up front. A tier. It's fast, and it's pretty not too bad for a scout car. Looks cool too. Sturm-Tiger. When I look at this tank, the term absolute unit comes to mind. I would send a picture of the beast to r/chonkers, but I doubt they have the same sense of humor as me. Taking first place in this game as the widest diameter barrel width and projectile being that of a 380mm, this father trucker shoots a rocket-propelled bullet bill with subtle nuclear capabilities. Armed with grenade launchers and flares in the passenger seats, this thing really feels more like a moving party bunker than anything else. S tier. Sum this bad boy in with squad points as the Germans. D34 Sherman Calliope. Representing the Mega Evolution form of the Sherman tank, this is the final form. So look and behold the 76mm anti-tank gun, edgy goth spikes to deter the homeless, as well as the main attraction, an artillery rocket pad mounted above the turret. Now I can give you 60 reasons why this is the best tank.
The T-34 Calliope. The rocket launcher T-34, also known as the Calliope, is a tank-mounted multiple rocket launcher used by the United States Army during World War II. The launcher was placed atop the M4 launch tubes.
Shooting 60 4.5-inch rockets.
A single tank matches the firing power of 15 batteries of 105mm howitzers.
It's named from the musical instrument Calliope, also known as the steam organ, which had similar parallel or clustered pipes.
Named after the nifty flute harmonica, this thing shares a name with a very popular VTuber, Calliope Mori.
My friend plays the recorder better. Hey, fuck your friend!
Now outside of the name, the only thing the two share are their lust for death. Call it in as a squad leader with your requisition points and wreak havoc on any normies within your vicinity, blasting, relaxing flute music for maximum results. S tier. Man see tank with mini rockets Jimmy rigged to the roof. Man say hell yeah. Type 97, hot cheap. Japan! This is literally another Sherman Calliope, but like anime edition. Very viable, but because it's another Japanese copy, I'm gonna have to throw this thing down to F tier for barely even existing. In fact, did it even exist? I legit cannot find any actual evidence that this rocket tank graced the earth with its presence, and the general consensus on the internet is that the entire design in the game was fabricated from imagination. The closest thing that matches the description online from available sources is this wacky Type 97 with a turret delete. Instead, it was mounted with a large deck for launching Bangalore torpedoes, said to have a maximum range of 20 meters. They were not used in combat for obvious reasons. Once again, I reiterate, F tier. Matteo, Valentine medium tank is... I can hear you all crying and screaming about the Valentine. I don't even need to finish the video to understand what's going on here.
Matteo,
What's that?
put more work into it. Use the mine clearing charges.
Okay, alright, let's give it one more chance. Oh my goodness, this is actually good. Alright, we're gonna do something unconventional. The Valentine Mark VIII medium tank, we're gonna redo it. Just for the pure sake of, people are wrong sometimes, and I want to elaborate why I'm changing it. Previously, in this video, I said that the mine clearing charges were bad, but they're not. You see, by simply executing a strategy of sneaking up behind a tank, ideally on the engine bay, you can deploy all the mine clearing charges, and then after shooting the primary gun, it detonates a chain reaction, which is very volatile. Just look at this, I don't even need to say anything. It's actually pretty viable, pretty niche, but it's worth moving this thing up into A tier. You can do some serious damage, some serious memes. Thanks for observing my blatantly biased takes. I am no Professor Mem, but when my colleague, aka the great tier list creator, passed the torch of Battlefield 5 tier list to me just before he left this world, I felt truly honored. And then irresponsibly waited too long to make this previously ascertained torch passing poetic in nature. Regardless, here it is. The results clearly show that I am obviously very opinionated and objectively correct. If you see things a different way or think I missed something, feel free to put your response in the comments. I'm sure that we can all find a way to have a civil discussion for sure. That said, airplanes are where I really shine, so I plan to make a tier list on those contraptions as well, in due time, in case that's something you'd be interested in. Besides that, this has been Matteo. Stay salty, tankers. Your team depends on your every decision.